It's a survival of the fittest out there in the NBA playoffs. I know every single year it's not only about being good, but it's about being healthy at the right time of the year, and that's this time, right now, to get the NBA championship. And it feels like every single day there's a new storyline, a new storyline out of the health department in terms of injuries or this weird illness that Kristaps Porzingis has. It's a legit survival of the fittest. And I know it's like this every year, I've said that, but it feels like it's more prevalent this year. I don't know, it's just because we're in the thick of it right now, or whether it's just because my memory. Can't remember last year that much, but who won last year? Boston. Did they have many injuries? Not that I can recall, but this year it's shaping up to be who can be the fittest, who can have the least amount of injuries to the least amount of significant players on their roster, and that's who's going to become champion. That's what I honestly believe. And obviously it comes down to talent and experience and all that stuff. But it's just one of those things where every single year injuries it's like a buzzkill from some of the top teams. And we saw it with Steph. We just saw it with Tatum, which is where this kind of brewed from, this topic. It just sucks to see. It sucks to see anyone go down, but let alone someone who's at the peak of their power. People are talking about him as the face of the league, even though for whatever reason, people don't really like Jason Tatum that much. They say he's boring. I don't know. How dare we hate on a guy for being too, outstanding, in terms of just he's a professional guy. He's not outspoken. He's a family man. How dare we hate on that? It doesn't make any sense, but he tore his Achilles. And that was kind of like the last straw of being like, there's so many injuries happening right now. And look, it's going to start the conversation again about the schedule, 82 games. But right now, who's the healthiest? Who can actually be the NBA champions? So I'm going to run through just a quick history of even the recent injury plagues, barring back from the play-in tournament, all the way to today, where Boston and New York are currently at halftime. New York is stomping them, by the way, which, that Boston just don't have enough scoring right now, besides from Jaylen Brown. So they're down 20 plus at the half. Not great in game 6. Anyway, where was I? You have to be one of the best, obviously, but you have to be one of the healthiest. Let's take a rewind to the play-in tournament. Even teams like Atlanta, Detroit, Orlando. I'm not saying they were going to do anything substantial in the playoffs or win the championship. That's not the case. But look at their guys that was out. Atlanta, Jalen Johnson, second best player on that team. Trae Young and Dyson Daniels were kind of holding down the front. They were doing their thing. They have some other pieces like Zachary Reese-Shea, he wasn't really ready for that stage in terms of being a consistent performer yet. But Jalen Johnson, one of the best players, was out for I think it was the entire season with a substantial injury. Didn't see him once in the play-in. Would have loved to see him out there just because you like to see those players out in that stage. Again, they weren't going to do anything, but it would have been a better game. A bit of contest. Next, Detroit. Jaden Ivey. Again, one of their best players. Again, Detroit aren't going to do anything, but you want to see guys out there. Orlando. Jalen Suggs. Second best player, third best player, fourth, I don't know. Something. Not second. Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero there, but third in terms of defensive mindset and young player, playmaker, floor general running from that point guard spot. It was never going to be their time to win a series, if your starting point guard is not out there. These teams aren't going to go all the way, as I said, but it's just one of those things when you actually look at the roster and you're like, God damn, there's a lot of people sitting out, a lot of starter level talent. And it sucks to see, and it's just another reminder of why you have to be healthy. You advance towards the actual playoffs. The headliner here is Damian Lillard, Achilles tear. I actually sort of forgot about his Achilles tear because all the chatter, all the news was about Jason Tatum and just obviously the teams that are left in the playoffs. I kind of forgot about Dame's injury. That sucks. Speaking of Jason Tatum, that sucks, but he's young enough to be obviously he's going to come back and we're going to see probably the best of Jason Tatum still. Lillard, probably can't say the same, which sucks to say. I'm a big Dame fan. I feel like he's one of the most likable guys, if not the most likable guy in the league. He's older. Achilles, long-term injury, is not going to go well for someone like him, but I wish him all the best, and it'll be great to see him. I'd love to be wrong. Sometimes it's great to feel right. Other times it's great to feel wrong. I'd love to feel wrong and see Dame go for another run, get a championship somehow. Don't know how that's going to go. You move on from Milwaukee to the Memphis series. OKC versus Memphis. Obviously, OKC, number 1 seed. Cool. Now, obviously, you feel like they're going to win. But you never know. because Memphis are a tough team. You've got Ja, who's kind of like a hit and miss star in terms of how he's played over the last year or so with all the off-court stuff. Even he had a few niggling injuries. He was kind of hit and miss in that series. Brandon Clark, starter level guy, out the entire season. Season or series. It doesn't matter. Series, 100%. Season, actually, I think he was. Substantial part of their roster. So like that hustle, glue guy, defender. Even Desmond Bain. I think he was a bit hit and miss with that series. The funny part about that one was Ja, after they got eliminated, said, we figured OKC out. Don't know what that means. And he just alluded to them being healthy and figuring them out and having a chance at beating OKC. We'll never know, Ja, but hell, that's a bold words. I don't think anyone would have picked Memphis to run out of that series, but you never know. Warriors, they were looking awesome up until like when they beat Houston in that 7-game series. Game 7, they walk out of that. You got Draymond screaming down the barrel like, yes, we're here, or whatever he said. It had me believing that maybe Warriors, the veteran Warriors, could do what they do 3-4 years ago, 5 years ago, and maybe they could take it all the way. I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if I'm being silly, but they were looking good. Guess what? Their best player, Steph, you may have heard of him, goes down with a hamstring injury. Suddenly, you just don't believe that they can do anything. And look, they had Jimmy Butler on that team in terms of playoff Jimmy. He made me believe, but he wasn't looking the same. He was hobbled. He had that weird fall in game 2, maybe. Never really looked the same. Minnesota advance. Health. Cleveland. Just going down the list here. Cleveland got eliminated by Indiana 4-1. Nobody, I repeat, nobody would have suspected that. 4-1. Guess how that happened? Yes, Indiana are a good team. I'm trying not to take anything away from them. Game 2, Cavs sat Darius Garland, starting point guard. Hello, Jalen Suggs talk from a while back. Evan Mobley, DeAndre Hunter. That was due to illness, but again, it's health. It's not just injuries. It's health. Guess what? Donovan Mitchell, not on that list, but he was playing through an injury apparently. I think it was a calf. Garland was clearly not his best. You saw him hobbling. You saw him the way he played. He had some moments, but he was not himself. Indiana win that series. Guess what? Speaking of Indiana, guess who's on their health report? Nobody except Isaiah Jackson. He's a backup, bigger role player. I actually really like him. But I think he was out for the season. Achilles as well. What's with his Achilles? Maybe he was in an ACL. One of those bad long-term injuries. But no one else on the list. Health. You see the theme here. Celtics. I just said they're in the middle of halftime where they just look bad. They don't look good. They're about to be eliminated by New York if all things stay the same over that way, which I assume it will. Tatum does his Achilles. Best player on the team. Done. Out. Sucks to see. Porzingis. Pretty good in that game, but he's battling some weird illness. I don't know what it is, but he looks gassed. He actually surprised me with how decent he was looking. Like, the commentators were basically talking about, like, you can't teach height, and height is obviously what he can still provide, even if he's not feeling great. But he looked pretty good. I won't lie about that. Guess what? Now let's move on to who's the healthiest. Just in the all playoff teams, not just remaining. But you may notice a theme here. Denver. This literally happened an hour ago. Nobody was on the injury report. That was substantial. An hour ago, they announced that Aaron Gordon was questionable for Game 7 on Monday, my time, Australia. Nice for 5:30 a.m. one then, by the way. But nobody was on their list. They were healthy. They were pretty good. Aaron Gordon is now questionable with a hamstring injury, which also sucks to see, but guess what? They were pretty healthy. OKC. Nobody substantial on their list. Nikola Topic, rookie, never played the entire season due to another Achilles? ACL? I don't know. He didn't play, but nobody on that list. They're looking to advance. Minnesota. They weren't even listed on the ESPN injury report, which is where I was looking for this. I don't know why. Maybe if you literally have no injuries, whether it's substantial players, role players, whatever. Maybe if you have anyone that you appear on the list, and if you don't, you're not even on there. And Minnesota weren't even on there. Guess what? They advanced. Indiana, I already covered them. Nobody but Isaiah Jackson. New York, nobody. Substantial. Precious Achiuwa had a day-to-day injury, but he was just playing out there, so forget that. Forget that one. Guess what? They're looking to advance. You may notice the theme here that every single team that is the healthiest or the least amount of injuries are the ones who remain. Besides from Boston, who are about to be eliminated anyway. They're the only ones that remain. It's just one of those things. Like it's literally a survival of the fittest out there at this time of the year. And as much as every single one of us would love if it was purely a talent competition where it was like, hey, like injuries is turned off. The old NBA 2K rules where you just like injuries are off. Let's just play based off talent. Of course, we'd love that. I think even the teams that win would love that because you're battling against the top of the top competition. But it's just not the way it works every single year. It's not. That's the ups and downs, the highs and lows of sport. It's why we love it. It sucks, but it's why we love it. It creates storylines. It creates narratives. It creates comeback stories, which we love. So, survival of the fittest. Every single time I think about the champions, it's hard to predict because I'm like, please just no more injuries. Celtics were obviously going to be there towards the end. No longer. You can't predict this stuff. Survival of the fittest. Let's see who's the fittest as the end of the season happens.